Hi, welcome back to the Gift Guide podcast. I'm Gianna, and today I'm here with Liz Thomson, food blogger and adoptive parent. Today we are talking about gifting for exceptional families. And I'm just so happy to have you here today, Liz.
I'm glad to be here.
Thank you for joining us and for helping talk about this topic that's just so incredible. It touches so many more people's lives than I think that we realize.
Yeah.
And so you have a son that you adopted. Tell me a little bit more about your experience expanding your
Yeah.
family.
So my husband and I have been foster parents for about 5 years. So we've had kids of all ages come through our house for various lengths of time. So the only legal child in our family is our 4.5-year-old who we adopted about 2 years ago from foster care. But then we have other kids who are still kind of part of our life through foster care.
That is so wonderful. Thank you for opening up your heart to so many people who need it.
Yeah, it's amazing. I'm so glad that we're able to do it.
What inspired you to become a foster parent?
We were just thinking about ways that we wanted to build our family and kind of felt like we have a really great support system, a really great family, and we thought we could probably open our doors in kind of a unique and different way. And we sort of went into it with the idea of like, we'll just try it, we'll see where it goes. We weren't necessarily planning on adoption, we were just planning on fostering. And then we were kind of open to the idea if that situation came up. Here we are.
That's amazing. And, it can be such a sensitive time and sensitive topic for children in that kind of transition. So I'd love to dive into, how can you make those children feel special and a part of your family when they are in such sometimes heavy transition?
Yeah, I think the holidays in particular can feel really difficult, especially for a kid who's in a new space with new people and they might not have the same like familiar traditions or familiar foods or familiar faces. And so being really conscious about how you talk about holidays, how you talk about family, I think is really important. I think that just using sensitive language, thinking about how you talk about parents and caregivers and family dynamics can be really important, especially over the holidays.
Wonderful to keep top of mind with, the words that you use and the power that they have on such, small brains. They're
Yeah.
just developing. And I'm sure at every single age, it's even different.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. Like the way that we talk to a toddler is a lot different than how we talk to a teenager, but still keeping in mind just like inclusive language and how they might be feeling over the holidays, even if they're not necessarily expressing it.
And so here at the podcast, we love to talk about meaningful gifting. So, are there any top of mind gifts that you have received that have helped your family feel meaningful and thought about during this holiday season?
I think some of the best gifts have been things that are experiences that we can do all together as a family unit, whatever that might be at the moment. And so as simple as we got like a movie kit when we had an 8-year-old and a 1-year-old with us for Christmas a few years ago. And it was helpful to find something that we could all sort of do together, watch a family movie, eat the candy. It didn't have to be anything big or anything particularly unique, but it still felt like, okay, we're creating some new memories. This is the thing that we're all doing together. Everyone gets to be a part of it. And so that was really fun.
That's so lovely. And I'm sure it felt really inclusive for such a broad age range,
Yeah,
too.
definitely. That can be a tricky one when you've got little ones and older ones.
Yeah, and staying home, I feel like it's such a cozy season to do that as
Yes.
well, and making that feel special and not just like an average night.
Yes, exactly.
And so for the people who don't have experience with adoption, who wanna support their friends who are fostering and opening up their homes, do you have any advice for how they can kind of broach the topic with their friends who are adopting and fostering?
I think some of the best gifts are books because it can really open up the conversation and help people understand that families can look a lot of different ways. There's a really great book called Families, and it's more specifically geared towards kids who are experiencing foster care, but it talks all about how families can look a lot of different ways, that some kids might live with an aunt, some kids might live with their parents, some kids might live with foster parents, and it kind of makes it a little bit easier for kids to be able to talk about things when it's in a book. It makes it feel a little bit less scary to bring up if they might have feelings that they're not sure how to talk about. But I think books like that can also help with kids who are in a more typical family structure to be able to see that, okay, just because my family looks like this doesn't mean that every family looks like that. And they might have questions about why does someone live with just one parent or why does someone live with their grandma? And so it can be kind of a good way to educate a kid in a really age appropriate way to help them see that the definition of family can mean a lot of different things.
I think you've hit such a great topic about how literature for children can be so expansive because
Yes.
throughout the ages, most kids don't learn how to talk about things until they've been exposed to it, and storytelling is such a beautiful way to expose them to that language.
Totally. We've been trying to be really intentional about the books that we get, whether it's maybe right now, we're trying to teach our 4-year-old how to talk about different emotions. And it can be really great to just, you see a character in a book talking about how they feel frustrated and how they might use different techniques to calm down. And it can feel a lot easier than, directing a kid on this is what you need to do if you're frustrated. It's like, oh, remember the book? This is what little monkey did when he dropped his ice cream cone. And so that can just be like a really helpful way to kind of bring up those topics.
As a fellow mom of a toddler,
You
man,
get
those
it.
books, when they talk about feelings, it's such a savior.
Yes, it helps so much.
So, you are a cook and you have an amazing food blog. Are there any special dishes that you like to bring around this time of year to help, bring the family together in the kitchen and over the dinner table that you'd like to share with us?
That's a really great one. So, one thing we try to do is think about if there is anyone maybe celebrating the holidays with us that isn't normally at our dinner table, asking them, like, hey, do you have any like favorite holiday foods or dishes or candy or just really simple things that might feel a little bit more familiar? So, some of it is just how do we maybe bring someone else's routine into ours? But then a lot of it is just trying to find really fun and interactive things, whether it's like doing a fondue night where everyone kind of gets to participate and be a part of the meal, or trying to think about, okay, maybe we do a bunch of different takeout from different pizza places and we try a lot of different stuff. So sometimes it is cooking together in the kitchen, but sometimes it's just finding a way to use food to sort of celebrate all together and build those memories.
That's such a creative way to make everyone feel comfortable and at
Yeah.
home and included. And speaking of creativity, are there any creative gifts that come to mind that can help to celebrate your adoptive and foster children and kind of where they've come from and what they're going through and experiencing?
One of the things I love is that right now it's so much easier to create really personalized gifts. And so it could be getting a book created where all of the characters are different people kind of from your life, your family's life, whatever that might look like, where you can kind of add different people from different places into the book so that they're part of the story. Or you can create a puzzle that's like a picture of your kid and their favorite people or whatever that might look like. And I think things like that can be a really great way to kind of like bring in that really personalized element, whether it's like a book for a little kid or a puzzle for a grown up. I think that could be a really fun way to kind of tie in those family things.
That is so special. I love you said it perfectly. The era that we're in of personalization is pretty spectacular because
It's
you
so
can really
fun.
make people feel special.
Yeah.
And I would love to know, as a local Richmonder, do you have any favorite traditions that you like to do with your family?
Ooh, great question. Okay, we used to love going to see It's a Wonderful Life at the Bird Theater. That's not very conducive to having a 4-year-old right now. So that's not necessarily in our plans this year, but that has been a really fun Richmond tradition. But one thing we do every year is we actually put clues on our presents. So every present gets a clue. And so when you're opening presents on Christmas morning, like you're reading the clue first and trying to guess what it is. And it's been a really fun way to just kind of like you get really silly guesses and sometimes you can't even figure out how the clues related to the gift. And so it ends up being pretty funny.
That is so cool. I've never heard of that before,
It's a
but
lot of fun.
brilliant. I love it. And so, is there anything else that you would like to tell our listeners who are attempting to support or even grow their family, either avenue that they're going on during the holiday season?
Yeah, I think that it can feel really scary to step into the adoption or foster care space when you're not familiar with it. And so I think finding ways to get involved in some organizations that can just help you understand a little bit more about what foster care looks like can be really helpful. There's a great organization here in Richmond called Worth Days, and they celebrate kids who are experiencing foster care through specialized like birthday boxes or graduation boxes or Easter baskets or things where kids might not otherwise be celebrated. And so an organization like that can be a great way to get your family involved. You can kind of, pick a birthday to sponsor or a holiday to sponsor and shop for that kid. And it's a great way to kind of talk to your family about what it looks like for kids that are experiencing foster care. And I think little avenues like that can kind of make it a little bit easier to understand more about what that looks like in a kid's life. And I think that's also just a really great and tangible way to support a kid who's going through a time like that.
Absolutely, and I think it's so wonderful to be able to include your own children in that kind of thing because then it opens their minds to what the possibilities are and how to be inclusive, and especially this time of year when it can feel so challenging.
Yeah, I think it's a really great way to practice like, okay, we're going to go shopping and it's not for us and we can talk about another kid that we want to help and support and it's kind of a great way to get the family involved in a really tangible way.
Yeah, that is beautiful. Well, thank you so much for coming and sitting with us today, Liz. Is there anything else that you want to tell our listeners before we finish up this interview?
Ah, this was so fun. Thanks for giving me a chance to talk about foster care and adoption.
Thanks for coming in and thank you for listening. We are going to drop some of these resources and volunteer opportunities in the description of this podcast. We cannot wait for the next episode. We'll talk to you soon.